All right, so the 3D final, track one, creating an interior space. So this is a little bit of a reversal from what we did for the midterm, although some of you turned that into the midterm. The midterm, we made a few objects, and some of you focused more on the space than on the objects, which is now going to work in your favor. So creating an interior space, thinking about not just the stuff in the room, but the room itself, the architecture, walls, ceiling, floor, light fixtures, etc. And going from there. And this is about being at sort of a more distance from the space and being in the whole space, not one particular item. So for one example, we have the living room we've seen before. I don't have a lot of student examples, that's why I'm starting with this one. If you were to take a close look at some of the stuff in here, you would find less detail than you would think. This couch cushion is basically a slightly beveled cube that was then rounded a little, and then maybe smoothed. Same with the pillow. Same with the back of the couch cushion, right? These are not, there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot going on in this bowl or this apple. These pieces down here are just stuck on, right? They're just sticking through. Now, see, oh, ooh, I dislike that immensely. If you're doing track 2, don't do this. See that right there? Not great, but we're not down on the floor. This is not Rescue Rangers, right? This is people walking around in this room from this distance. And from this distance, everything looks great. So there's more leeway in terms of how you build things. Now, that doesn't mean we just want to blatantly stick a few cubes and cylinders in here and call it a day. No, no, no. We want to actually take some time with things. And I would recommend maybe considering what the focal area would be. I would consider this kind of the piece de resistance of this room. There's more things in here that are being detailed, right? There's the mantle, the fact that there is a fireplace, this part of the mantle, this front piece of the mantle, the actual fireplace, the pedestal the mantle is on, right? It's not any one of these things is that complex, but there's different pieces here that build out. And then of course there's some really nice looking stuff on here, and just clicking on them, you can see they have more detail than anything else in the room. And so this person probably, whoever made this, decided this is the focal point, and everything else is kind of like, it's there. But it's not about individual little pieces necessarily. It's more about the overall feel of the room. Remember things like baseboard, or did I do it on this one? Yeah, so beveling the walls a little bit. Remember that if you have a window or a door, it has to have, or doesn't have to have, but it should have depth to it, right? There's a width to walls and to floor. Like if you're looking through something, you should be able to see it. If you want to leave a wall or two open, that's fine. That's typical. The whole room is not usually closed off. All right. Now I have a few student-sized examples. Now, I need to be very, very clear. These are not examples of the DAT 212 final. These are from another school at another time with another assignment with another set of skills. They're just student examples of students making a room. Now, this one just so happens to have some attention, a little bit of attention to the materials anyways, not a lot, the color they paid attention to. It's just kind of meant to be a game room. They kind of thought about having this inset right here. Light fixtures are a big thing. I would recommend thinking about them because they can fill the space and also tell you where to put your lights. And then so it's both the space in terms of like walls and floor, and then the furniture, light fixtures, and not much set dressing, just a few pillows, a couple of televisions. That's a little much. That's a little simple, a little too simple. They're simple, and then there's this is pushing it, right? I mean, that's what it looks like if you smooth it. More on that in a moment. So be aware of that. They only have a couple lights in here. I don't have a lot of student lighting examples. It's like they kind of started it. They have 2 lights in here to kind of be like the light bulbs that are lighting everything, and they have one directional light to kind of fill in things. But yeah, lighting is a big deal in this one as well. You want to pick a time of day, time of year, a mood that you're going for, and light for that, right? So you want to that's kind of a bigger focus on this one than it would be on track two. Track two, you light it to make things look nice, but this one we're focusing a little bit more on the mood of the piece and how you're filling the space. Um, so let's see here. Now this one, not a lot of stuff in here, but I like their ideas for some architectural things, and hopefully it stops blinking. They wanted to do the couches around the oh, there we go. Need to unreference these if we want to see them. There we go. So they wanted to do the couches around the pillar, like from a lobby, which is really cool. It's a really great idea. And then they wanted to do chandeliers, but this is not a very successful chandelier. And then they started to do these benches, right? So it doesn't have to be a home interior, but an interior like this, there's a lot that's going on. So kind of be careful if you pick something like this. Now, one thing we can do with interiors that we can't do with the other track with the mechanical objects is repetition. So this looks overwhelmingly large at first, although the file is a little bit big and my computer is struggling a little bit with it capturing the screen. But it's one chair that this person made. So this person made a decent looking chair. Again, it's not really hold up to scrutiny when you're that close to it. But they thought of things like, I love that, the indent there and this coming out here and this being a separate piece. On top of that, they thought of just enough things to make it look just nice enough that when you're looking at the whole theater, you're like, oh, wow, right? Because you've got the light bouncing off the feet that are on the ground, and there's a lot of nice detail in there. And then it's repeated 11 billion times. The structure of this model is the floor model is not awesome. I would recommend this being a separate piece from the stairs. There's no reason for it to be the same piece, and that gave them a lot of grief. But I do like this built in to the wall. And then this indent for that built into there, and thinking about how there's an exit that has to go underneath the wall. And oh, there it is. It's the little things, right? So you have the little exits under there. So there are a lot of good ideas. Oh, and then also the exits there. So this has a lot of good ideas in it. We've also got the sort of inset lights, the recess lights. And if we turn on lighting, it's like when you're walking into the theater. Let me actually turn off. We don't want to see the lights and we don't want to select geometry. There it is. Some pretty nice lighting. All right, so again, this looks overwhelming at first, but if you break it down into its component parts, it's to make one chair and replicate it a zillion times. The living room is the same couch cushions for all of the couches and chairs. Like it's the same things. There's a bowl full of apples. You make one apple and you duplicate them. You make one candlestick and you duplicate it to 4 more. You make one lamp, make 2 more, like duplicate it twice and then stretch one of them taller. There's a lot of repetition you can use to fill the scene. Speaking of filling the scene, for track 1, layout is going to be important in the sense of how you lay out the room and what you do to fill it. There is set dressing involved here, where if you decide to do an office, there should be crap on the desk. All of you have stuff from prior assignments. If you wish to use those, you may. However, I will know that you did that, and it won't count towards your modeling for this assignment, but it counts towards the layout, how you use them. It counts towards any new materials you place on them or textures or things like that, right? So it does count, like you're putting them in the scene. So the fact that you're dressing the set, thinking to do that and where you put them and your composition, all that counts. It should, but like if you fill your scene with stuff that you got from other assignments, and then the only thing you model is like the walls and the ceiling, then that's we got to talk, because that's not going to be counting for too much. But if they're just if you already have a wheel in a workshop and you put a bunch of them in the corner, but there's still like you've made a new table and a new, I don't know, furnace or something like that, then that's fine, right? So we don't want those old things to be the focus of your new scene, but they can definitely like fill the little nooks and crannies and things like that. All right, so you're modeling a new space, focusing on the architecture of the room. You don't need to hyper focus on details. You don't need to worry as much as your track 2 classmates about things intersecting. Oh, I made it so I can't select geometry. There we go. Right? That's, as long as it's not egregious, and as long as you continue to have nice details like that being inset and like this being extruded in, look at this being brought in so that it's not just a pipe, right? You can see this has got a little bit of a beveled edge right there, maybe bevel a little bit more depending on what it is, right? But we're talking about being in a room, not staring at one particular object. All right. Now, in terms of things to think about, one of the videos I'm going to be putting up is going to talk about smoothing. That's probably going to affect you more, especially if you have any sort of upholstered anything, talking about how it looks and how it should look and smooth it, preview smooth, all that stuff. Organizing layers. This video already exists. I'll fix the spelling. But it's up on this playlist. And you saw when I was in the living room model and some of these other ones too, using layers to your advantage. So turn, oh, that unfortunately it's only half the seat cushions, so they didn't quite get it on here. There we go. Oh, they made these. They did duplicate special to spin those out there, and so they put them on their own layer, which is why some of the seats don't disappear when you disappear the other stuff. But in the living room set, the walls are one layer, the seats are another layer, the lamps are another layer. Use layers to keep yourself organized because you're going to have a lot of things, right? If you're modeling all this architecture and all the stuff in the room, even if you're just bringing in stuff from other projects to dress the set, you're going to have a lot to organize. So you want to be looking at that as well.